Maya Washington trembled in handcuffs on the library steps at dusk, tears streaming down her face, as Officer Dawson emptied her purse onto the ground, laughing. With shaking hands, she had managed one desperate call to her brother before the officer confiscated her phone. The sleek black SUV with government plates that suddenly pulled up made Officer Dawson freeze. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Washington stepped out in full military uniform, his face a mask of controlled fury. Officer Dawson's jaw dropped in shock, unaware that this wasn't his first time targeting black professionals in this community. Would this be the day justice finally caught up with a man who had been hiding behind his badge for far too long? If you're watching this story about the pursuit of justice in a system designed to resist change, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. If you believe everyone deserves equal treatment under the law, hit that like and subscribe button, because tomorrow's special episode reveals how ordinary people can stand up to extraordinary corruption when they refuse to back down. It had started as an ordinary Tuesday for Maya Washington at Oakwood Public Library. The spring sunshine streamed through the tall windows as she shelved the last batch of returned books, humming softly to herself. At 35, Maya had finally achieved her dream position as head librarian, transforming the once struggling branch into a vibrant community center. Today's children's reading program had been a particular success, with over 40 kids engrossed in stories about historical black heroes who had changed America. "Miss Maya, will you read the Harriet Tubman book again next week?" little Zara had asked, her eyes bright with excitement. "Absolutely," Maya had promised, straightening the girl's glasses. "And maybe we can talk about Katherine Johnson too. She helped put astronauts on the moon with her amazing math skills." As the last child left with their parent, Maya began the closing routine. She checked each aisle, straightened the reading nooks, and finally locked the main office. The sun was beginning to set as she stepped outside to lock the front doors. That's when she noticed the police cruiser circling the parking lot for the third time that week. Maya tried to ignore the uneasy feeling in her pit of her stomach. She had lived in Oakwood her entire life, aside from her years at Howard University. She knew most of the local officers by name, but Officer Thomas Dawson was relatively new to the force, and something about the way he watched her made her skin crawl. She was inserting the key into the door when the cruiser pulled up sharply behind her car. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you," Officer Dawson called, stepping out with one hand resting on his holster. Maya turned slowly, maintaining her professional composure. "Good evening, officer. Is there something I can help you with?" "I need to see some identification. We've had reports of suspicious activity in this area." Maya's heart began to pound, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm the head librarian here. I was just closing up for the day." Officer Dawson's pale face remained impassive. "I don't care if you clean the toilets or run the place. ID, now." Maya carefully reached for her purse. "May I ask what this is about? What kind of suspicious activity?" "A woman matching your description was seen trying to break into vehicles in this parking lot." Maya looked around at the nearly empty parking lot in disbelief. "That's impossible. I've been inside the library all day running a children's program, with dozens of witnesses. Are you refusing to comply with a police officer's instructions?" Dawson's voice hardened. "No, sir," Maya said, retrieving her wallet and holding out her driver's license and library ID badge. "Here's my identification. My name is Maya Washington, and I'm the head librarian. You can call the library board president to confirm." "Officer," Dawson barely glanced at the IDs. "Step away from the building and put your hands on the hood of my car." "Excuse me?" Maya couldn't believe what she was hearing. "There must be some mistake. I work here." "Now you're resisting arrest, Dawson," said, his hand moving to grab his handcuffs. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." "This is ridiculous," Maya protested, as several bystanders across the street began to notice the confrontation. "I've done nothing wrong." Without warning, Officer Dawson grabbed her arm roughly, spinning her around and shoving her against the police cruiser. The impact knocked the wind from her lungs. "Stop resisting," he shouted, though Maya wasn't fighting back at all. "I'm not resisting," she gasped as he twisted her arms behind her back with unnecessary force. The cold metal of the handcuffs bit into her wrists. With her face pressed against the car, Maya managed to slip her hand into her pocket and press her brother's speed dial. Marcus had always told her to call him if she ever felt unsafe with police. As a black woman, he'd insisted she program the shortcut into her phone. She'd always thought he was being paranoid. "What's in your pocket?" Dawson demanded, roughly patting her down. "Trying to hide something?" "It's just my phone," Maya answered, praying Marcus had picked up and could hear what was happening. Officer Dawson yanked the phone from her pocket. "Trying to call for backup, huh? Think your gangbanger friends are going to come save you?" "My brother," Maya corrected him, wincing at the pressure on her shoulders. "I was calling my brother." "Sure you were," Dawson smirked, pocketing her phone. Across the street. Several people had stopped to watch, phones raised to record the incident. But no one dared to approach. "Please," Maya called to them, "someone call Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Washington at the Pentagon. Tell him his sister needs him at Oakwood Library." Officer Dawson laughed. "Lieutenant Colonel? At the Pentagon? Lady? You watch too many movies. Now shut up and stop making a scene." He began roughly emptying her purse onto the ground, scattering her belongings across the pavement. Her library keys, lipstick, wallet, and even family photos were strewn at her feet. "What's this?" he demanded, holding up her prescription migraine medication. "Looks like illegal pills to me." "Those are prescribed by my doctor," Maya said through gritted teeth. "The prescription information is right on the bottle." 20 excruciating minutes passed as Officer Dawson continued to berate her, alternately accusing her of breaking into cars, dealing drugs, and lying about her identity. Maya's arms ached from the tight handcuffs, and tears of frustration threatened to fall. Then she heard it, the distinctive sound of a powerful engine approaching. A sleek black SUV with government plates pulled up alongside the police cruiser, and her heart soared with relief. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Washington stepped out in his full-dress uniform, stars gleaming on his shoulders. At 6'3", his commanding presence immediately changed the atmosphere. The bystanders watched in stunned silence. "Officer, I need you to explain why my sister is in handcuffs," Marcus said, his voice deceptively calm. Officer Dawson straightened up instantly, his demeanor shifting at the sight of the uniform. "Sir, this woman was suspected of breaking into vehicles. She resisted arrest and had unidentified pills in her possession." Marcus approached slowly, hands visible. "I'd like to see your body camera footage, officer." "Dawson, Sir Thomas Dawson." "Officer Dawson, please pull up your body camera footage now." The camera might have malfunctioned," Dawson stammered. "That's interesting," Marcus replied, "because I've been on the phone listening to this entire interaction, and I've already forwarded the recording to your superior officer, Chief Anderson. Now remove those handcuffs from my sister immediately." As if on cue, another police car pulled up, and an older officer with captain's bars stepped out. "Captain Reynolds," Maya breathed in relief, recognizing the long-time community officer. "What's going on here, Dawson?" Captain Reynolds demanded. "Sir, I was responding to reports of suspicious activity and—" "Don't bother," Reynolds cut him off. "I received a very concerning call from Chief Anderson about an unauthorized detention. Let's review your body camera right now." Despite Dawson's earlier claim, the body camera was functioning perfectly. As they reviewed the footage on the spot, Dawson's face grew increasingly pale. The camera had captured everything, including several racial slurs muttered under his breath when he thought Maya couldn't hear. "Officer Dawson, surrender your badge and gun," Captain Reynolds ordered. "You're suspended effective immediately pending a full investigation." As Dawson reluctantly complied, Marcus gently helped Maya collect her scattered belongings. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, examining the red marks on her wrists. "I am now," she whispered, still trembling slightly. "How did you know to come?" "I was already in town for a meeting at the state capitol. When you called, I was only 20 minutes away." He squeezed her shoulder. "But this isn't over, not by a long shot." Looking at Officer Dawson's stunned face as he was escorted to Captain Reynolds' car, Maya realized this confrontation was just the beginning of something much bigger than a single incident of racial profiling. Something that would change Oakwood forever. The morning sun streamed through Maya's kitchen window as she nursed her third cup of coffee. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing with notifications since dawn. The local news station had run a segment on last night's incident at the library, complete, with bystander footage that clearly showed Officer Dawson's aggressive behavior. "Maya, have you seen this?" Her best friend Aisha texted, attaching a link to the Oakwood Gazette's front-page article. "Local librarian wrongfully detained. Pentagon official brother intervenes." The library board had issued a statement of support. The Oakwood Public Library stands firmly behind our respected head librarian, Maya Washington, and condemns any form of discrimination or mistreatment. Ms. Washington has transformed our library into a vital community resource, and we are appalled by yesterday's incident. Her doorbell rang and Maya found Marcus on her porch with breakfast from their favorite local diner. "Thought you could use some of Miss Ella's pancakes," he said, giving her a gentle hug. "How are the wrists?" Maya rubbed the lingering bruises. "Better." The ice helped. As they ate, Marcus's expression grew serious. "I've been making some calls. This isn't Dawson's first incident." "What do you mean?" "He has a pattern of stopping black professionals in this neighborhood. A doctor, a college professor, an engineer, all detained for suspicious activity or matching a description." But none of the incidents resulted in formal complaints. Maya set down her fork. Why wouldn't they file complaints? Fear of retaliation, small-town politics. "You know how it goes." Marcus leaned forward. "Maya, you need to pursue this formally, not just for yourself but for everyone he's intimidated." After Marcus left for his meeting, Maya called Internal Affairs to file a formal complaint. The officer, who took her statement, seemed professional but distantly polite. That afternoon, she met with Gloria Patterson, a civil rights attorney recommended by Marcus. "You have a strong case," Gloria told her after reviewing the incident. "The body camera footage alone is damning, not to mention the witness recordings and your brother's audio. But be prepared for resistance." "What kind of resistance?" "The police union will close ranks, they always do, and Officer Dawson might have friends in high places." Maya straightened her shoulders. "I won't be intimidated." "Good," Gloria nodded. "Because I've already found 5 similar incidents involving Dawson in the past year. All victims were black professionals, and all complaints were mysteriously dismissed." Maya felt a chill despite the warm office. How is that possible? That's what we're going to find out. When Maya returned home that evening, she felt cautiously optimistic. The community seemed solidly behind her. The evidence was clear, and Dawson was suspended. For the first time since the incident, she allowed herself to believe that justice might actually be served. Then her phone rang with an unknown number. "Hello?" Heavy breathing filled the line for several seconds before a distorted voice spoke. "You should have kept your mouth shut, library lady. Not everyone gets a second warning." The call disconnected before she could respond. With trembling hands, Maya called Marcus, who instructed her to check the security cameras he had installed after their parents' home was vandalized years ago. The footage showed 2 masked figures approaching her car at 2:17 a.m. One slashed her tires while the other spray-painted a crude message on her driver's side door. "Know your place." What would you do if you were Maya? Would you back down to protect yourself or continue fighting for justice? Comment 1 if you believe she should persist despite the threats, or 2 if you think her safety should come first. Hit that like button if you've ever stood up against intimidation, and subscribe to follow Maya's journey through a system that wasn't built to protect people like her. But the real question is, when the powerful close ranks to protect their own, what chance does one person have against an entire corrupt system? The following Monday, Maya took a deep breath before pushing open the library's staff entrance. She had spent the weekend with her security system upgraded and a rental car in her driveway, courtesy of Marcus. The threatening call and vandalism had been reported to the police, but the responding officer had merely filed it as possible random vandalism, despite the targeted message. Something felt different the moment she stepped into her office. The air was heavy with tension. Her assistant, Zoe Martinez, followed her in with a concerned expression. "Maya, there's something you should see," Zoe said, handing her a stack of papers. "These were in your mailbox this morning." Maya flipped through anonymous printouts of social media posts calling her a race baiter and attention seeker. One particularly disturbing note read, Libraries are for books, not making political statements. Go back where you came from. I've worked here my entire career, Maya whispered. I was born in this town. I know, Zoe squeezed her shoulder. And there's more. The board chairman wants to see you. Richard Coleman called an emergency meeting yesterday. Sunday? They never meet on Sundays. Coleman's office door was closed. When Maya arrived, but she could hear his voice through the thin walls. We need to contain this situation, becoming a distraction. Library's reputation. When she knocked, the conversation abruptly stopped. Coleman opened the door with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Maya, come in. We were just discussing the unfortunate incident. Inside, Maya was surprised to find not the full board, but Coleman alone with Police Chief Robert Anderson, a man she recognized from community events but had never spoken with directly. Chief Anderson stopped by to express the department's concerns about how this situation is unfolding, Coleman explained, gesturing to a chair. Ms. Washington, the chief began without preamble, while we regret any misunderstanding that may have occurred, escalating this into a formal complaint has serious implications for Officer Dawson's career and our department's community standing. Maya sat straighter. Misunderstanding. He handcuffed me outside my workplace without cause and used racial slurs. It's all on camera. Context is important, Chief Anderson replied smoothly. Officer Dawson was responding to a legitimate call about suspicious activity. The body cam footage is being reviewed for proper context. I've seen the footage, Maya countered. What context justifies his behavior? Coleman cleared his throat. Maya, we all want what's best for the library and the community. Perhaps it would be better for everyone if we could resolve this matter quietly. Quietly, Maya echoed in disbelief. The department is prepared to issue a formal apology, Chief Anderson offered. Officer Dawson would undergo additional training. We could all move forward without a protracted legal battle that would only divide the community. Maya looked between the two men. And sweep racial profiling under the rug? I can't do that. Coleman's friendly demeanor slipped slightly. Maya, be reasonable. The library board supports you, but we need to consider the bigger picture. Donations, community goodwill, our relationship with city officials. A public battle helps no one. As Maya left the office, the pieces began falling into place. Coleman and Anderson weren't just colleagues. She had seen them together at fundraisers, golf, tournaments and city functions. They were friends, part of the same social circle that ran Oakwood from behind the scenes. Throughout the day, Maya noticed staff members avoiding eye contact. Conversations stopped when she entered the break room. By afternoon, she discovered why. The local newspaper's website had published a follow-up article that painted a very different picture of the incident. Questions arise about library confrontation. Sources close to the investigation suggest Librarian Maya Washington may have escalated the situation through non-compliance with standard police procedures. Edited footage circulating online shows Washington arguing with Officer Dawson before being detained. Attached was a 10-second clip showing only the moment Maya had questioned why she was being stopped, carefully cut to remove Dawson's aggressive approach and racial comments. They're trying to change the narrative, Zoe said, looking over Maya's shoulder at the article. Who would release edited footage? That has to be illegal. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Gloria. They're playing dirty. New tactic. Character assassination. Call me. Looking out her office window, Maya froze. A police cruiser was parked across the street, and in the driver's seat sat Officer Dawson, staring directly at the library. He wasn't supposed to be on duty at all, let alone patrolling her workplace. She snapped a photo and sent it to Gloria and Marcus. Within minutes, Marcus called. He's back on active duty, Marcus reported grimly. Captain Reynolds has been overruled by the chief. The pending investigation has been downgraded to an administrative review. By the end of the week, library attendance had dropped by 30%. Parents were keeping children away from the reading programs. Online community forums were filled with heated debates about the incident, with an increasing number of commenters questioning Maya's version of events. Did you see what they're saying about me online? Maya asked Gloria. During their strategy meeting. It's a classic playbook, Gloria explained. Discredit the victim, Protect the institution, rewrite the narrative. They're betting you'll give up when you see your reputation being dragged through the mud. Maya stared at a new anonymous email that had somehow bypassed the library's filters. Watching you, always watching. Back off or the next time won't be just your car. They don't know who they're dealing with, Maya said quietly, closing her laptop. This has never been just about me. The black government SUV pulled up to Maya's driveway at exactly 7 a.m. Marcus stepped out, not in his military uniform this time, but in a sharp civilian suit. Behind him emerged a tall man with a precisely trimmed beard, carrying a leather briefcase. Maya, this is Jamal Thompson, Marcus introduced as she opened the door. Pentagon legal advisor and one of my oldest friends from law school. He's taken personal leave to help us. Pleasure to meet you, Ms. Washington, Jamal said with a firm handshake. Though I wish it were under better circumstances, Marcus has briefed me on the situation. Inside, Marcus spread several folders across Maya's dining table. I've been busy since I returned to D.C., pulled every string I could reach. The Pentagon is officially uninvolved, Jamal clarified, but Marcus and I have resources that might help level the playing field. Maya examined the documents before her. You've been investigating Officer Dawson and Chief Anderson and your board chairman Coleman, Marcus confirmed. We need to understand exactly what we're up against. Maya flipped through personnel files, incident reports, and financial records with growing astonishment. How did you get these? Legally, Jamal assured her with a slight smile. But it's better not to ask for specifics. Marcus pointed to a particular report. Dawson has been involved in 17 incidents with black professionals in Oakwood over the past 18 months. 0 white individuals with similar profiles were stopped during the same period. That's beyond statistical anomaly. But the most interesting connection, Jamal continued, tapping another document, is Dawson's family tree. His uncle is State Senator Harrison. Wait, Maya looked up sharply. William Harrison? The one pushing that controversial development bill for East Oakwood? The very same, Marcus nodded. Now we need to meet with Mayor Williams. She's expecting us at 9. Mayor Patricia Williams welcomed them into her office with obvious nervous energy, her eyes darting repeatedly to the closed door. I want to apologize personally for what happened, Ms. Washington, she began. It's not reflective of our values as a community. Then why is Officer Dawson back on duty? Marcus asked bluntly. And why is the police department releasing edited footage to discredit my sister? The mayor's smile faltered. These are complex personnel matters. Chief Anderson has assured me that proper procedures are being followed. Madam Mayor, Jamal interjected smoothly, sliding a folder across her desk. We've documented 18 civil rights violations by the Oakwood Police Department in the past 2 years, all targeting educated black professionals. The pattern is unmistakable. Mayor Williams paled as she scanned the contents. I had no idea this was happening. With respect, Marcus said, it's your job to know. Their next stop was the police department, where Chief Anderson kept them waiting for 45 minutes before grudgingly agreeing to a meeting. Lieutenant Colonel, Anderson acknowledged Marcus with barely concealed disdain. This is a local police matter. Pentagon involvement. Seems excessive. I'm here as Maya's brother, Marcus replied evenly. Mr. Thompson is here as our legal counsel. Jamal placed a legal document on the chief's desk. This is a formal request for preservation of evidence, specifically the complete, unedited body camera footage from Officer Dawson on the date in say. Question? That footage is part of an ongoing investigation, Anderson objected, which is precisely why it must be preserved, Jamal countered. We've already filed this with the court and sent copies to the State Attorney General's office and for the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. The chief's face reddened. Are you threatening me, Counselor? Simply ensuring due process, Jamal replied with a pleasant smile. By late afternoon, Jamal had secured the complete body camera footage through a friendly judge. What they viewed in Maya's living room was worse than she remembered. Jesus, Marcus muttered as they watched Officer Dawson mutter racial slurs while searching Maya's purse. The unedited footage clearly showed him planting a small bag in her belongings before discovering it, though he had never mentioned this alleged evidence in his report. That's tampering with evidence, Jamal noted, taking detailed notes. among other felonies. After reviewing the footage, Marcus stepped outside to make a call. When he returned, his expression was grave. "I've arranged for additional security," he told Maya. "A risk assessment suggests the threats against you could escalate." Once Jamal stepped out to coordinate with the security team, Maya finally allowed her carefully maintained composure to crack. The tears she had been holding back for days flowed freely. "I can't believe this is happening," she sobbed, as Marcus held her. "All I did was exist in my own skin while being successful. That's literally my only crime." "I know," Marcus said softly, his own voice thick with emotion. "This isn't the first time," Maya admitted. "Remember when I was stopped walking home from the university library during my senior year? Or when that security guard followed me through every aisle at Coleman's department store? I've been dealing with this my whole life, just never this coordinated." Marcus nodded. "Dad always told us we'd have to work twice as hard to get half. As far. But we made a pact, remember?" Maya wiped her eyes. "When Dad got passed over for that promotion, even though he trained his own supervisor, we promised we wouldn't just endure injustice. We'd fight it," Marcus finished. "Every time." Maya straightened her shoulders, her moment of vulnerability passing. "Then that's what we'll do, no matter what comes next. What would you do in Maya's position? Would you continue fighting against a system that seems determined to silence you? Comment 1, if you believe in standing up to corruption no matter the cost, or 2, if you think sometimes survival means strategic retreat. Like this video if you believe the truth always deserves to be heard, and subscribe to see how far the corruption in Oakwood really goes. The real question remains, when those meant to protect and serve become the threat, who can you truly trust with your safety? Maya's phone rang at 6:15 a.m., jolting her awake. The library board secretary's voice was tense on the other end of the line. "Maya, I'm sorry to call so early, but you need to know before you come in today. The board has received a formal complaint about financial irregularities in the children's program budget. They're launching an audit immediately." Maya sat up, instantly alert. "What financial irregularities? I oversee that budget personally." An anonymous tip claimed, "You've been misappropriating funds. I shouldn't be telling you this, but they're meeting right now in emergency session." By the time Maya arrived at the library, dressed hastily but professionally, the board was already filing out of the conference room. Richard Coleman intercepted her in the hallway. "Maya, we need to talk privately," he said, steering her toward his office. Inside, he closed the door and handed her an official letter. "I want you to know this isn't personal, but given the seriousness of the allegations, we have no choice but to place you on administrative leave pending investigation." Maya scanned the document in disbelief. "This claims I diverted $3,000 from the children's literacy program to an unauthorized vendor. That's absurd. Every purchase was approved through proper channels, including your signature." "The documentation we received suggests otherwise," Coleman replied, not meeting her eyes. "The receipts appear to have been altered." "Altered by whom? I want to see this evidence. The auditors will handle that. For now, I need your keys and building access card. You're to have no contact with library staff during the investigation." As Maya surrendered her keys, her hands trembling with anger rather than fear, she noticed a text from Zoe. "They're locking your computer and files right now. Something's very wrong." In the main library area, Maya could see her colleagues watching. Through the glass walls of Coleman's office, most quickly looked away when she made eye contact. Only Zoe Martinez, her assistant librarian, gave her a subtle nod of support. Outside, Maya called Gloria immediately. "They're trying to destroy your credibility," Gloria said after hearing the details. "Classic tactic to shift focus from Dawson's misconduct to alleged impropriety on your part." "But falsifying financial records is criminal," Maya argued. "They'd have to manufacture evidence." "Which is exactly what I think they're doing," Gloria replied grimly. "Who has access to modify the financial records? The financial office, Coleman, and me, and I suppose IT administrators could access anything on the server. We need to get ahead of this. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to preserve all financial records in their current state before they can be further tampered with." That evening, Maya returned to an eerily quiet house. Marcus had returned to Washington for an unavoidable Pentagon briefing, but had arranged for a security consultant to check her home regularly. Still, something felt off. She flipped on the lights and gasped. Every drawer had been pulled out, every cabinet opened. Books were swept from shelves, furniture overturned, and photo frames smashed. Written across her living room wall in what looked like red lipstick were the words, "Stop digging." With shaking hands, she backed out of the house and called 911. The police took 40 minutes to respond. When they finally arrived, it was Officer Dawson's partner, Officer Miller, who took the report. "Looks like a routine burglary to me," Miller commented, barely glancing at the threatening message on the wall. "Any valuables missing?" "This wasn't about theft," Maya insisted. "Nothing is missing. It was meant to intimidate me." Miller's pen hovered over his notepad. "Ma'am, without evidence of a specific threat or connection to any ongoing investigation, this will be filed as a standard breaking and entering. We'll increase patrols in the area." After the police left, Maya called Marcus's security contact, who arrived within minutes. The ex-military specialist swept the house methodically, finally stopping in Maya's home office. "Ms. Washington," he said quietly, holding up a tiny electronic device. "Your home has been bugged. Professional equipment, not commercially available. There are 5 more throughout the house." "Police equipment?" Maya asked, her blood running cold. "Could be, or private security with law enforcement connections." He placed the devices in a signal-blocking pouch. "Whoever did this has resources and training." When Marcus returned the following day, he brought Jamal with him. "Internal Affairs has mysteriously stalled your complaint," Jamal reported. "The investigator originally assigned to your case has been reassigned. His replacement is Chief Anderson's former partner. And the financial investigation against you is moving at lightning speed," Marcus added. "They're not even pretending to be subtle anymore." Maya looked between her brother and the attorney. "We're dealing with something bigger than one racist cop, aren't we?" "Much bigger," Marcus confirmed. "This level of coordination suggests Dawson is just the visible part of a systemic problem." "The question is," Jamal said, "how deep does the corruption go? And who's really calling the shots?" "There have to be others," Maya insisted, pacing her brother's hotel room. After the break-in, Marcus had insisted she not stay at home. "Dawson can't be targeting black professionals without leaving other victims behind." Jamal nodded, fingers flying across his laptop keyboard. "I've been cross-referencing police incident reports with demographic data. In the past 3 years, there have been 27 questionable detainments of black professionals in Oakwood. 14 involved Officer Dawson directly." Marcus studied the map where they'd plotted each incident, concentrated in 3 neighborhoods, all historically white areas that have seen increasing diversity in the past decade. "We need to talk to these people," Maya said. "They might have evidence or experiences that could strengthen our case." Contacting Dawson's previous targets proved challenging. Most didn't return calls. Others expressed fear of retaliation. 2 had moved away from Oakwood altogether, citing a hostile atmosphere. Finally, Dr. James Wilson, a retired chemistry professor from Oakwood College, agreed to meet them at a coffee shop 2 towns over. "I didn't file a formal complaint," the 70-year-old man explained, his hands curling around his mug. "After 40 years teaching at the college, building respect in this community, to be handcuffed in my own front yard while getting my mail." He shook his head. "It was humiliating." "What reason did Officer Dawson give for detaining you?" Jamal asked. Gently. "Said there had been burglaries reported and I matched the description. When I showed him identification proving I owned the home, he claimed it could be fake." Dr. Wilson's voice hardened. "I've lived in that house for 35 years. Would you be willing to testify about your experience?" Maya asked. Fear flickered across the professor's face. "I have grandchildren in Oakwood schools. My daughter works for the city. What happens to them if I speak out?" "That's exactly why this pattern continues," Marcus said quietly. "Fear silences people while the system protects itself." Dr. Wilson studied his hands for a long moment. "My father couldn't drink from the same water fountain as white folks. My grandfather was run out of his business for being too successful for a blacks. Man, I didn't endure all I have to stay silent now." He looked up with newfound resolve. "I'll testify." Throughout the week, they continued building their coalition. Reverend Calvin Jordan from Oakwood's historic First Baptist Church offered both his support and his church as a meeting place. "This community has been divided too long by those who benefit from our silence," he told them. Meanwhile, Marcus worked his Pentagon connections, digging deeper into Officer Dawson's background. He was dismissed from 2 previous police departments before coming to Oakwood, he reported. Records sealed by court order both times. That should be impossible for regular misconduct, Jamal noted. Unless someone with influence intervened, Maya suggested. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Zoe Martinez called Maya from a burner phone. "I can't talk long," Zoe whispered. "They've been monitoring staff communications, but I managed to access the financial records they're using against you. Maya, they've been altered. I have screenshots showing the changes and who made them." "Zoe, that's incredibly risky," Maya warned. "They could fire you." "Too late," Zoe replied bitterly. "I've been terminated for unauthorized computer access. But I got what we needed first." The system logs show Coleman himself modified the budget entries 3 days ago, then backdated the changes to make it look like you did it months ago. "That's criminal fraud," Jamal said when Maya relayed the information. "If we can prove it, Coleman could face serious charges." As their evidence mounted, so did the pressure. Marcus was called back to the Pentagon for an urgent review of his recent activities. Maya received a certified letter from the State Library Association rescinding an award she was scheduled to receive for her children's reading program, citing professional conduct concerns. The night before their planned strategy meeting at Reverend Jordan's church, Maya received a devastating call from her parents. "Honey, we're worried sick," her mother said, her voice tight with anxiety. "Someone left photographs of you and Marcus on our front porch with red X's drawn over your faces. You need to let this go," her father pleaded. "Both of your careers are at stake. This town has ways of making problems disappear, and sometimes those problems are people." After the call, Maya and Marcus sat in tense silence. "They're threatening our family now," Maya finally said. "Maybe Dad's right. Maybe we should stop." Marcus studied his sister's face. "That's your decision to make. But remember why we started this fight. It's not just about us anymore." Maya thought of Dr. Wilson, of Zoe losing her job, of Reverend Jordan's unwavering support. If we back down now, Dawson wins. The whole corrupt system wins, and they'll keep targeting others. "So what do we do?" Marcus asked. "We push harder," Maya decided. "We bring everything into the light." Later that evening, Gloria called with disturbing news. "We've traced financial contributions to Police Chief Anderson's retirement fund. Over $100,000 from shell companies, all linking back to the police union and, surprisingly, a development corporation owned by Senator Harrison. Dawson's uncle," Maya recalled. "And Coleman sits on the City Planning Commission. That approves development projects." The pieces were starting to fit together, revealing a picture more disturbing than any of them had imagined. Have you ever witnessed injustice but stayed silent out of fear? Comment 1, if you believe speaking truth to power is always worth the risk, or 2, if you think self-preservation sometimes needs to come first. Hit that like button if you're inspired by Maya's courage to stand up against overwhelming odds, and subscribe to see how this coalition of truth seekers will take on the entire corrupt system. The real question is, when facing a conspiracy that reaches from street-level harassment all the way to state government, can a small group of determined citizens really make a difference? The basement of First Baptist Church was filled beyond capacity. Community members sat shoulder to shoulder in folding chairs, while others stood along the walls. News cameras from both local stations set up in the back, and a reporter from the state capitol had made the drive down. "I didn't expect this many people," Maya whispered to Reverend Jordan as they watched the crowd grow. "Word spreads," the Reverend replied with a small smile. "Not everyone in Oakwood supports corruption, even if they've been silent until now." At precisely noon, Reverend Jordan approached the microphone. "We gather today not just to address one incident, but a pattern of behavior that has infected our community like a slow poison. Today we begin the healing by exposing the truth." Maya took the podium next, her heart pounding but her voice steady. 2 weeks ago, I was unlawfully detained outside the library where I've dedicated my career to serving this community. What happened to me wasn't random. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was part of a deliberate pattern of intimidation against black professionals in Oakwood. She detailed her experience methodically, presenting the timeline of events including the subsequent break-in threats and manufactured financial allegations. As she spoke, photographs and documents were displayed on a screen behind her. But my story is just one of many, she concluded, introducing Dr. Wilson. The retired professor approached the microphone with dignified determination. I've been silent for too long, he began, describing his own detention by Officer Dawson. When you've lived through the civil rights era, you recognize the face of racism, even when it hides behind a badge. Zoe Martinez followed, explaining the financial evidence showing how the library board chairman had falsified records to discredit Maya. She displayed screenshots and system logs documenting the exact times changes were made to the budget files. I lost my job for accessing these records, Zoe said firmly, but I'd do it again. The truth matters more than my position. As Gloria presented the legal implications of their evidence, the atmosphere in the room shifted. What had begun as a supportive gathering was now charged with collective outrage. Officer Dawson's pattern of targeting black professionals isn't isolated misconduct, Gloria explained. Financial records show concerning connections between police leadership, local officials, and private development interests represented by State Senator Harrison. The crowd murmured as Gloria displayed a complex chart showing financial contributions flowing between these entities. We've identified 17 cases of harassment against black professionals in areas slated for luxury development. These incidents create a climate of fear and often lead to residents relocating, allowing properties to be purchased below market value. Just as Marcus stepped forward to present additional evidence, the church doors burst open. Officer Dawson entered accompanied by his attorney, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. Since my name is being dragged through the mud, I believe I have the right to respond, Dawson announced, moving toward the front of the room. The crowd parted reluctantly. Reverend Jordan, ever the diplomat, offered Dawson the microphone. Officer Thomas Dawson, he introduced himself unnecessarily. 13 years in law enforcement, decorated twice for bravery. What you're witnessing today is nothing but a politically motivated witch hunt. His attorney took over smoothly. My client was performing his duties according to department protocols when he encountered Ms. Washington, who refused to comply with standard procedures during a legitimate investigation. Maya watched the performance with growing disbelief. Dawson appeared polished, reasonable, completely unlike the aggressive officer who had handcuffed her. Furthermore, the attorney continued, we have serious concerns about the involvement of Lieutenant Colonel Washington, who appears to be using his Pentagon position to wage a personal vendetta against the Oakwood Police Department. Marcus maintained his composure as all eyes turned to him. My position has nothing to do with this. I'm here as Maya's brother and a concerned citizen. Yet you've been accessing restricted databases, making inquiries using military credentials, and pressuring local officials, the attorney countered. The Pentagon's Inspector General has been notified of these concerning actions. Before Marcus could respond, a piercing alarm cut through the room. The fire alarm was blaring, and emergency lights began flashing. Everyone please exit calmly, Reverend Jordan directed, moving toward the stairs. Outside, fire trucks arrived within minutes, though no smoke was visible. As the crowd milled around the church lawn, Maya noticed several reporters checking their equipment with confused expressions. What's wrong? She asked one camera operator she recognized from the local station. All our footage is gone, he explained, bewildered. Memory cards completely wiped. Same with the other crew, never seen anything like it. Gloria pulled Maya aside. This was coordinated. The alarm, the data wipe, they're destroying evidence. They can't destroy what's already been backed up, Maya replied, watching Officer Dawson and his attorney slip away during the confusion. Every document we presented today is secured in multiple locations. They're getting desperate. As the fire department gave the all-clear to re-enter the building, Maya surveyed the fragmented gathering. Some people were already leaving, the momentum of the meeting broken, but others were forming small, intense discussion groups, sharing contact information, making plans. "They think they've won this round," Maya told Marcus as they helped Reverend. "Jordan reorganized the disrupted space, but they've just shown exactly what we're fighting against, and convinced more people to join the fight," Marcus added, nodding toward a group of community leaders who were approaching them with determined expressions. The system had revealed its tactics, but in doing so had only strengthened Maya's resolve. The emergency library board meeting was called for 7:30 a.m., an unusually early hour that Maya suspected was chosen deliberately to minimize public attendance. Despite the timing, she arrived to find a small group of supporters gathered outside. The administration building, including several regular library patrons and Zoe Martinez. "We're with you," Zoe told her, pressing a coffee into her hands, "no matter what happens in there." Inside the boardroom, Richard Coleman sat at the head of the table, flanked by board members whose expressions ranged from uncomfortable to openly hostile. Only Mrs. Abernathy, the eldest board member and a lifelong advocate for the library, offered Maya a sympathetic glance. "This meeting will come to order," Coleman announced briskly. "We have a single agenda item, the employment status of head Librarian Maya Washington." Maya's attorney, Gloria, placed a recording device on the table. "For the record, we are documenting these proceedings given the serious nature of today's discussion." Coleman frowned but continued. "The evidence of financial misconduct is clear. Furthermore, Ms. Washington's recent actions have created significant community disruption and reflect a pattern of poor judgment incompatible with leadership of our institution." "What evidence?" Gloria challenged. "We've submitted documented proof that the financial records were falsified. By you, Mr. Coleman. Those allegations are themselves falsified," Coleman replied smoothly. "And beyond the financial concerns, Ms. Washington has turned a routine police matter into a divisive crusade that has damaged the library's standing in the community. Attendance is down, donations have decreased, programs are suffering." The vote, when it came, was 9-1. Only Mrs. Abernathy voted against termination. "Maya Washington, your employment is terminated effective immediately," Coleman announced with barely concealed satisfaction. "Security will escort you to collect personal belongings from your office. Your credentials have already been revoked." Outside her former office, Maya discovered her computer had been removed for investigation. Her personal items were packed in a cardboard box, including family photos that had been removed from their frames. "I'm sorry, Miss Washington," the security guard mumbled, unable to meet her eyes. "Just doing my job." By afternoon, Maya discovered her library email had been disabled and all her digital files deleted from the server. When she called the IT department, a former colleague whispered that they'd been instructed to remove all trace of her from the systems. "They even deleted your reading program curriculum," he told her. "Years of your work, just gone." Meanwhile, Marcus was facing his own professional crisis. His commanding officer at the Pentagon had summoned him to an urgent video conference. "Washington, what the hell are you doing down there?" Colonel Richards demanded without preamble. "I've got the Inspector General asking questions about misuse of Pentagon resources, and Senator Harrison himself calling my office. Sir, I've been careful to keep my Pentagon position separate from my sister's situation," Marcus explained. "Not careful enough. There's talk of a review board, Lieutenant Colonel. This could end your career." That evening, as Maya and Marcus compared notes at his hotel room, the full scale of the coordinated attack became clear. Maya had received rejection emails from 3 libraries where she'd applied for positions, all citing concerns about professional conduct. The State Library Association had rescinded an award she was scheduled to receive for her innovative reading program. "They're not just firing you," Marcus observed grimly. "They're making sure you can't work in your field again." Maya's phone rang her parents again. Their voices were strained with worry. "We saw the news about your termination," her mother said. "Maybe it's time to come home for a while, until this blows over." "It's not going to blow over, Mom," Maya replied. "This is systematic corruption, and they're counting on people backing down." "Your career is ruined," her father argued. "Marcus could lose everything he's worked for. Sometimes you have to know when to walk away. After the call, Maya sat in silence, truly considering retreat for the first time. He's not wrong, she finally said. Look at what they've done already. My career is in shambles. Your military record is under threat. They've erased years of my work. And for what? Because I questioned being handcuffed for existing while black in my own community. Marcus studied his sister's face. So what are you saying? We give up. Let them win? Maya looked down at her phone, scrolling through text messages from former library patrons, community members who had attended the church meeting, even students from her reading program. Messages of support, anger at the injustice, offers to help. No, she said finally, her resolve hardening. If we back down, we're not just failing ourselves. We're failing every person who might be Dawson's next target. We're failing every kid who looks like us, who needs to see that standing up for justice matters. Even at this cost? Marcus asked carefully. Especially at this cost, Maya replied. Because if they can do this to us, with your Pentagon connections and my community standing, imagine what happens to those without our resources. Later that night, Gloria called with a new development. We've confirmed the police union is funding Officer Dawson's high-priced attorney, and they've hired a PR firm to coordinate social media responses and plant stories with friendly media outlets. A PR firm for a local police misconduct case? Marcus questioned. That's unusual. Very, Gloria agreed. Someone with deep pockets is invested in making sure this story goes away. The question is, why this case matters so much to them. We need to find out, Maya said. Because whatever they're protecting goes far beyond one officer's behavior. And I think it's time we stop playing defense. Have you ever been punished for standing up for what's right? Comment 1 if you've experienced professional backlash for speaking truth, or 2 if you're one of the fortunate few who haven't faced such consequences. Like this video if you believe the hardest battles are often the most important ones. And subscribe to follow Maya's journey as she shifts from defense to offense against a system that's desperately trying to silence her. The pressing question remains, when an entire power structure mobilizes against individuals seeking justice, what hidden corruption are they so determined to protect? The call came at 2:17 a.m., waking Maya from a restless sleep. Is this Maya Washington? The woman's voice was hushed, anxious. Yes. Who is this? My name is Tanya Williams. I used to work as a clerk at the Oakwood Police Department. We need to meet, but not anywhere in Oakwood. I have information about Officer Dawson and why you were targeted. They arranged to meet at a diner 30 miles away in a neighboring county. Maya and Marcus arrived early, selecting a booth with clear sight lines to all exits. Jamal joined them, laptop ready to document whatever information their mysterious caller might provide. Tanya Williams entered precisely at the agreed time. She was middle-aged, with tired eyes that constantly scanned the room. She slid into the booth and immediately placed a USB drive on the table. I worked in records for 7 years, she began without preamble. I processed incident reports, managed the filing system, coordinated information between departments. About 2 years ago, I started noticing a pattern in the stop reports. She opened a folder containing photocopied documents. These are internal directives that never made it into the official policy manual. They established what they called community preservation initiatives in specific neighborhoods. Marcus studied the papers. This looks like a quota system for stops in affluent areas. That's exactly what it is, Tanya confirmed. Officers were instructed to conduct extra verification checks on individuals who appeared out of place in certain neighborhoods. The language was careful, never explicitly mentioning race, but the implementation was clear. Black and brown professionals in predominantly white neighborhoods were primary targets. Who authorized this? Gloria asked. Chief Anderson signed off, but the directive originated from a citizen safety committee chaired by Senator Harrison. Your library board chairman Coleman was also a member. And Officer Dawson's role? Maya pressed. He was specifically selected for his reliability in handling these stops, Tanya explained. Some officers were uncomfortable with the policy and found ways to avoid making these stops. Others, like Dawson, embraced the role. Why? Marcus asked. What's the end game of harassing black professionals? Tanya pulled out a map of Oakwood, with certain neighborhoods highlighted. These are the targeted areas. Now look at this. She overlaid another map showing proposed development projects. Senator Harrison's development company has been quietly buying properties in these neighborhoods for the past 3 years. Maya studied the overlapping maps, realization dawning. They're deliberately making certain residents uncomfortable enough to leave, driving down property values. Exactly, Tanya nodded. It's gentrification with a badge. Create enough incidents, spread enough fear, and eventually people sell below market value and move somewhere they feel safer. You have documentation of all this? Jamal asked, already typing notes. That's why I was fired, Tanya said bitterly. I started asking questions about the pattern. They forced me to sign an NDA as part of my severance, but they can't silence evidence of criminal conspiracy. She pointed to the USB drive. Everything is there, but it's encrypted. And I made a backup hidden within the library database where I volunteer. The library system? Maya asked, surprised. In the archive catalog database. Nobody looks there. I hid the files as corrupted image attachments to century-old acquisition records. Maya and Zoe arranged to meet at an internet cafe the following day. Using Zoe's still active credentials, they attempted to access the hidden files, but encountered an unexpected obstacle. They've scheduled a complete system purge, Zoe reported, scanning the IT department notifications. Part of the digital modernization initiative, all archives are being migrated to a new system tomorrow night. They'll discover the hidden files during migration, Maya realized. We need to get them today. Marcus called in a favor from a Pentagon cybersecurity specialist who talked them through creating a secure extraction protocol. For 3 tense hours, they downloaded the encrypted archives while monitoring for security alerts. Got it, Zoe finally announced, removing a portable drive from the computer. Complete archive secured. The documents, once decrypted, were more damning than they could have imagined. Emails between Chief Anderson, Senator Harrison, and development executive explicitly discussed demographic adjustment strategies for targeted neighborhoods. Financial records showed payments to the police union coinciding with increased patrol activities in specific areas. Most disturbing were the personnel evaluations, praising officers like Dawson for their proactive community preservation efforts, with specific mention of stops involving black residents. That night, as they compiled the evidence, Maya received a text from Jamal. Turn on the news. The local station was reporting a break-in at Tanya Williams' home. She had been found unconscious and taken to the hospital in serious condition. The report described it as an apparent burglary gone wrong. They know she talked to us, Marcus said grimly. We need to secure all copies of the evidence immediately. It's not enough to have the documents, Jamal explained the next morning in Marcus's hotel room. We need someone on record acknowledging the conspiracy. A confession, Maya nodded, but none of these people will talk to us now. Not willingly, Marcus agreed. But what if they thought they were talking to an ally? They developed the plan carefully. After initial resistance, Marcus's FBI contact from counterterrorism finally agreed to review the evidence, then brought in agents from the Civil Rights Division. This crosses multiple jurisdictional lines, the agent explained. Public corruption, civil rights violations, conspiracy, wire fraud for the financial transactions. But we need solid evidence of intent. Richard Coleman would be their target. As a civilian without law enforcement training, he might be less guarded. And as Maya's former boss, he might underestimate her. He's already reached out about a possible settlement, Gloria reported. Says he wants to resolve this situation amicably before it further damages community relations. Maya would wear a wire to the meeting. The FBI would monitor from a van parked nearby. We want you to express interest in a financial settlement, Jamal coached her, but push for details about why they're so determined to silence you. Get him talking about the bigger picture. The meeting was set for a private room at the Oakwood Golf Club, where Coleman was a board member. Maya arrived exactly on time, equipped with a recording device disguised as a stylish brooch. Maya, thank you for coming, Coleman greeted her with false warmth. I think we both want to put this unfortunate situation behind us. That depends on what you're offering, Maya replied, projecting a calculated blend of wariness and interest. Coleman slid a document across the table. The board is prepared to offer a generous severance package, 6-month salary, health benefits, and a neutral reference for future employment opportunities. In exchange, you agree to cease all actions against the library, the police department, and associated individuals. Maya glanced at the document. That's a lot of money for the library to part with. The funds aren't coming from the library budget, Coleman admitted. Concerned parties have contributed to ensure this matter is resolved discreetly. Senator Harrison, Maya suggested casually. Coleman's eyes narrowed slightly. The senator understands the importance of community stability. And community stability means making sure people like me don't make noise when we're mistreated. You misunderstand. Coleman leaned forward. Development and progress require certainty. Investors need to know their properties will appreciate. The senator has significant plans for Oakwood's future, plans that require certain demographic adjustments. And Officer Dawson helps with those adjustments? Officers like Dawson understand their role in community preservation, Coleman replied, relaxing as Maya appeared to be connecting the dots. Not all of them have the stomach for it, but the effective ones are well compensated. So when Dawson stopped me, you were becoming too established in that neighborhood. The reading programs, the community outreach, making the library a gathering place for families. That, well, don't align with the development vision. We needed to remind you of your place in Oakwood's future. Maya maintained her composure despite her internal fury. And the financial allegations against me? A contingency that became necessary when you refused to quietly accept the warning. Coleman smiled thinly. The senator's development plans require certain properties to change hands within specific timeframes. Tax incentives, rezoning applications, everything is already in motion. This is all about real estate, Maya asked incredulously, carefully drawing out more details. Real estate is just the beginning. It's about reshaping Oakwood's future. The right businesses, the right residents, the right image to attract the right investments, and the right complexion, Maya added pointedly. Coleman's expression hardened. Don't be crude. This is business. He slid the settlement agreement closer to her. Your signature today ends your troubles. You can start fresh somewhere more. Suitable. Maya pretended to review the document. So if I sign this, the allegations disappear, Officer Dawson backs off, and everyone pretends this never happened. Precisely. Coleman nodded, reaching inside his jacket. I'm authorized to provide an initial good faith payment today. As Coleman withdrew an envelope, his eyes suddenly fixed on Maya's brooch. His expression shifted from confidence to suspicion. You recording this conversation? He demanded, half rising from his chair. Mr. Coleman, You stupid! He lunged across the table, grabbing for the brooch. Maya jerked backward, her chair tipping over. Coleman's fingers closed around the recording device, yanking it from her jacket. The door burst open as FBI agents rushed in, but not before Coleman had smashed the device against the wall. Federal agents, don't move! Coleman attempted to flee through a side door but was quickly apprehended. In the struggle, Maya was knocked against a table, the edge catching her temple. The last thing she remembered was Coleman's voice shouting about illegal recordings as blood trickled down her face. Maya woke in the hospital with a mild concussion and 6 stitches above her right eye. Marcus sat beside her bed, talking intently on his phone. The recording survived, he reported after ending the call. Coleman destroyed the decoy device, not the actual wire you were wearing. So we got him? Maya asked groggily. We got the whole conspiracy. The FBI is executing search warrants right now. The hospital room door opened and a nurse entered to check Maya's vitals. Behind her, Maya caught a glimpse of Officer Dawson in the hallway, speaking with a hospital security guard and gesturing toward her room. Marcus, she whispered urgently. Dawson is outside. Marcus immediately moved to the doorway, blocking entry. Through the small window, Maya could see the confrontation unfolding. Dawson was attempting to gain access, claiming he needed to secure a statement from the victim of an assault. You're not coming anywhere near my sister, Marcus said, firmly, his military authority evident in his stance. This is police business, Dawson insisted. You're interfering with an investigation. The only investigation happening here is federal, Marcus replied, and you're about to be the subject of it. Dawson's face contorted with rage. He leaned in close to Marcus. You think you've won something? You have no idea how high this goes. Your Pentagon career is over, Lieutenant Colonel. The senator has friends in every branch of government. As hospital security intervened, separating the men, Maya realized Dawson's final threat wasn't just bluster. Somehow this local conspiracy connected to power players beyond Oakwood, reaching potentially into federal government. The question was, how far did the corruption extend? The federal investigation moved with unexpected speed. Within 48 hours, preliminary charges were filed against Richard Coleman for witness tampering, conspiracy, and assault. The FBI executed simultaneous search warrants at the police department, City Hall, and several private businesses connected to Senator Harrison. Initially, local media remained suspiciously silent about the raids. Then a comprehensive evidence package was anonymously leaked to multiple national outlets. Suddenly, Oakwood was thrust into the national spotlight as a case study in systematic racial harassment for financial gain. Maya watched from her hospital, bared as the story exploded across cable news networks. Officer Dawson appeared on a conservative channel, tearfully claiming he was being scapegoated for following departmental policies. The performance might have been convincing if the leaked documents hadn't included his performance evaluations, specifically praising his enthusiasm for targeting out-of-place individuals in affluent neighborhoods. Chief Anderson attempted to flee the jurisdiction when federal agents arrived at his home with a search warrant. He was apprehended at a private airfield, boarding a chartered plane to the Cayman Islands. Senator Harrison called an emergency press conference, vehemently denying all allegations and characterizing the investigation as political persecution. His carefully crafted message disintegrated when reporters began asking specific questions about emails in which he had personally directed the community preservation initiatives. Maya was released from the hospital to find her phone filled with interview requests. With Gloria's guidance, she agreed to a single televised interview with a respected national journalist. What made you decide to fight back when so many others had remained silent? The journalist asked. I kept thinking about the children who come to my reading programs, Maya answered. What kind of example would I be setting if I accepted being handcuffed for existing in my own community? Sometimes silence feels safer, but it only ensures the same injustice will happen to someone else. Meanwhile, Marcus faced his own professional challenge. Despite the mounting evidence supporting their actions, the Military Review Board proceeded as scheduled. He entered the hearing room in full dress uniform, prepared to defend his career. To his surprise, several high-ranking Pentagon officials attended in person, including General Mitchell, the Deputy Director of Intelligence. Lieutenant Colonel Washington, the Review Board chairman, began. You stand accused of misusing military resources and abusing your position in pursuit of a personal matter. How do you respond? Sir, I did not use military resources, Marcus stated firmly. I used my personal time and personal connections to assist my sister in addressing a clear violation of her civil rights, a violation that has now been shown to be part of a larger criminal conspiracy. And your Pentagon credentials. There are allegations you leveraged your position to pressure local officials. I identified myself accurately in all interactions. I never claimed to be acting in an official capacity or with Pentagon authorization. The questioning continued for nearly 2 hours before General Mitchell requested permission to address the board. I've reviewed all evidence in this matter, the general stated. Lieutenant Colonel Washington's actions were exemplary. He maintained appropriate boundaries while confronting genuine corruption that, as we now know, extends to individuals with defense contracts worth millions. If anything, his actions have protected our national security interests by exposing corruption that could have compromised sensitive projects. The board ultimately cleared Marcus of all charges with a formal commendation added to his file for exceptional judgment and integrity under pressure. At the library, the remaining board members attempted to control the damage by unanimously voting to reinstate Maya with back pay and a formal apology. Their attorney presented her with a settlement offer that included substantial compensation for emotional distress and reputational damage. "We hope you'll accept this as a gesture of reconciliation," the attorney suggested. "The board is eager to put this unfortunate incident behind us." Maya slid the document back across the table. "I'm not interested in a private settlement with a confidentiality clause. I want a public apology, acknowledging the racial targeting, full reinstatement of my reading programs, and community oversight of police activities near the library." "Those terms are beyond the library board's authority," the attorney protested. "Then find someone with the proper authority," Maya replied, firmly. "Because I'm not signing anything that silences this conversation." As federal indictments progressed, the community polarization reached dangerous levels. Supporters of Chief Anderson and Officer Dawson organized protests outside the federal building. Counter-protesters gathered to support Maya and the growing coalition of former victims now speaking out. Late one night, Maya was awakened by the sound of breaking glass and the acrid smell of smoke. Someone had thrown a flaming bottle through her kitchen window. She managed to extinguish the fire before it spread beyond the curtains, but the message was clear. There were still those willing to use violence to intimidate her. The FBI investigation revealed the attack had been coordinated through encrypted messaging by individuals still evading prosecution. As they delved deeper into these communications, a disturbing pattern emerged, connecting local corruption to higher levels of government. Marcus discovered that his own superior at the Pentagon, General Wesley, had been in regular contact with Senator Harrison. Further investigation revealed Wesley had authorized classified surveillance of Marcus and Maya using military intelligence resources. "This is beyond local corruption," the FBI special agent told them. "We're looking at abuse of federal authority, misuse of classified systems, potentially even FISA violations." Working with federal authorities, Marcus helped design a trap to catch Wesley using classified surveillance illegally. They planted specific, traceable information in secured communications and waited. When Wesley acted on the information, the evidence was irrefutable. The conspiracy had expanded far beyond what any of them had initially imagined, revealing connections between local harassment, real estate fraud, and corruption reaching into federal agencies and defense contractors. The federal courthouse was filled to capacity on the day the grand jury indictments were announced. 17 individuals were charged in the sweeping corruption case, including Officer Dawson, Chief Anderson, Richard Coleman, and Senator Harrison. The United States Attorney stood before the assembled media, outlining charges that included civil rights violations, conspiracy, wire fraud, witness tampering, and abuse of office. This case reveals an organized effort to use law enforcement as a tool for racial harassment and financial gain, she explained. The evidence indicates a decades-long conspiracy to systematically drive specific residents from targeted neighborhoods through intimidation, false arrests, and abuse of police authority. For Maya, sitting in the audience between Marcus and Gloria, the moment felt surreal. What had begun as a single incident of racial profiling had exposed corruption reaching from local police to state government to federal agencies. Most shocking to the public was the revelation about General Wesley, who was forced to resign with fair dishonorable discharge after evidence showed he had diverted military intelligence resources to monitor Maya and Marcus at Senator Harrison's request. The national media coverage framed the Oakwood case as emblematic of how racial discrimination had evolved into sophisticated systems of oppression. Commentators noted how traditional civil rights laws had failed to address these more subtle, but equally damaging forms of discrimination. 2 months after the indictments, Maya was officially reinstated as head librarian with a public apology from the reconstituted library board. Her first act was to establish a community oversight program for police activities near the library and other educational facilities. "Libraries should be sanctuaries of learning for everyone," she stated, at the reopening ceremony. "No child should fear that they or their parents might be harassed while seeking knowledge." Marcus received a promotion for his integrity despite the pressure he had faced. His new position included oversight of ethical compliance within intelligence operations, a role created specifically in response to the abuses uncovered in the Oakwood case. Tanya Williams recovered from her injuries and joined Maya's community initiative, bringing her insider knowledge of law enforcement procedures to help design effective oversight mechanisms. Dr. Wilson and other victims who had previously remained silent found their voices. Together, they established a support network for those affected by similar discrimination, creating safe channels for reporting incidents without fear of retaliation. Reverend Jordan's church became a center for healing and reconciliation as the community began the difficult process of acknowledging the systematic discrimination that had been allowed to flourish. The library's children's reading program resumed with record attendance. Maya noticed that the audience had become more diverse, with families from all parts of Oakwood now feeling welcome. On a warm spring evening, 1 year after her confrontation with Officer Dawson, Maya stood at the podium in the library's main reading room. The space was filled with community members, journalists, and several Justice Department officials. "Today we're not just celebrating the reopening of a library program," she began. "We're celebrating the reopening of possibilities. For too long, invisible boundaries divided our community, telling some of us where we belonged and where we didn't. Those boundaries were enforced not just by those with badges, but by systems designed to maintain separation." She gestured to the diverse crowd before her. "Look around you. This is what justice looks like. Not just punishment for wrongdoing, but the creation of something better than what existed before." Maya introduced a group of young black children who had been part of her reading program. One by one, they shared their dreams for the future, to become doctors, teachers, scientists, and yes, even librarians. "These children will grow up in an Oakwood different from the one I knew," Maya continued. "They will grow up knowing that their presence in any neighborhood, any institution, any position of influence is not just permitted but essential. They will grow up understanding that justice isn't given, it's demanded, worked for, and sometimes fought for." After the ceremony, as the crowd mingled over refreshments, Maya slipped away to her office. On her desk sat the manuscript she had been working on for months, reading between the lines, how one community exposed systematic racism. Marcus found her there, reviewing her notes. "Your speech was powerful," he told her, "but you didn't mention your book." "Not ready yet," she replied. "There's still more to write. This story isn't finished." "The case is closed," Marcus reminded her. "The guilty have been convicted. But the systems that allowed it to happen still exist in communities across the country," Maya said. This was never just about Oakwood. As they walked through the library together, they passed the spot where Maya had been handcuffed a year earlier. The memory still brought a shadow of pain, but now it was tempered with something stronger, the knowledge that her refusal to accept injustice had created ripples of change, extending far beyond herself. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across the library steps. In the fading light, Maya noticed a young black family approaching, a mother with 3 small children, each carrying books. "Ms. Washington," the mother called, recognizing her. "We moved here last month. The children have been so excited about your reading program." Maya welcomed them warmly, introducing herself to each child. As the family entered the library, Marcus squeezed his sister's shoulder. "That's why it all mattered," he said quietly. Maya nodded. "And that's why we keep fighting. Not just for justice in courtrooms, but for the right of every person to exist, freely, without fear, in the fullness of their humanity." As they followed the family inside, Maya reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple question about her right to exist in a space. That question had exposed corruption, brought down powerful figures, and ultimately transformed a community. But more importantly, it had created a blueprint for how ordinary citizens could confront systemic injustice, not by enduring it, but by persistently, methodically bringing it into the light. The library doors closed behind them, but the work of justice continued. One book, one child, one community at a time. What Maya's story teaches us is that injustice thrives in silence. When faced with discrimination, the easiest path is often acceptance, to endure, to move on, to preserve our safety and careers. Yet this pattern of acquiescence is precisely what allows systemic injustice to persist across generations. True change requires courage to stand firm when pressure mounts, wisdom to gather evidence methodically, and perseverance to push forward when retaliation comes. It teaches us that justice isn't merely the absence of overt discrimination, but the active dismantling of systems designed to preserve inequality. Most importantly, Maya's journey demonstrates that no corrupt system, regardless of its power or reach, can withstand the sustained pressure of truth when ordinary citizens refuse to back down. Individual acts of resistance, when connected and amplified, can transform not just personal circumstances but entire communities. The ripple effects of standing against injustice extend far beyond our immediate experience, creating safer spaces for those who come after us. Has there been a time in your life when you witnessed injustice but struggled with whether to speak up? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. What would you have done in Maya's position when her career and safety were threatened? Comment: justice. If you believe standing up against discrimination is always worth the cost, or share a personal story about a time you confronted unfairness. If this story about courage in the face of systemic racism resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to support more content that explores uncomfortable truths about our society. Remember, as Maya discovered, sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply refusing to accept the unacceptable, even when standing alone. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Maya's story, and may we all find the strength to recognize and challenge injustice in our own communities.